As one would expect, after Jews are massacred, Owen Jones does a video explaining why, either it was okay or it totally wasn't okay, but, and this massacre in Bondi Beach is no different. Owen Jones did a video a couple days ago, say basically you were gonna see what he did in that video. We're gonna start playing it as always with Owen Jones's videos. We don't have timestamps. We just start playing it. We go as long as we can take it, and then we go take a shower. So I'm just gonna welcome to the reality show. I'm joined by Stuart and Daniel. Guys, you ready to just hear what he has to say?
Sure.
Let's let's listen.
Nauseating, horrifying anti-Semitic attack on Jewish Australians as they celebrated Hanukkah together, full of joy and happiness, on Bondi Beach at Sydney in Australia. I didn't want to talk about Israel and its ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people. Unfortunately, Israel and its cheerleaders have decided otherwise. They have decided to turn this hideous attack into an opportunity to justify genocide against the Palestinian
I
people.
think we can
And to
pause
shut
here.
down.
Yeah, first of all, I think that is, I'm not sure, we'll need to check. I think that might be a record for the longest it ever took Owen Jones post October 7th in a video to use the word genocide. But yeah, I'm gonna by the way, we might just start another show or a separate channel where we just have Owen Jones videos and we have subtitles translating him from whatever language he's speaking to English. But yeah, what he was saying there was, look, I really don't want to respond to every mass murder, to every massacre of Jews for being Jews by explaining why it's the Jews' fault that they get massacred. But unfortunately, the Jews made me do it. That is essentially what he just said there. Stuart, agree, disagree? Yeah.
Well, he would certainly say that it's not the Jews, it's Israel, and that's the distinction that a lot of these people want to make. And it's true that there is a difference. Not all Jews are Israelis, but I don't know. I don't know that it is necessary, as he seems to think. I, I don't know that the world separates them. So I don't know that you can blame Israel for making this about Israel, because I think this is about Israel. It's the anti-Jewish uh, revival is very much tied to Israel. I don't know how you separate the two.
Yeah, and PC, thank you for the super chat. PC says he is a communist. Yeah, that actually ties in. He is the type of communist who, was fighting against the Shah in Iran alongside Islamists, thinking, we all want the better world that's gonna come after we get rid of the Shah. And then they're like, hang on, you want to kill all of us? This is Owen Jones in a nutshell. Owen Jones, except I think he knows better. That I'm not sure all of those communists knew what they were getting themselves into. I am absolutely certain that Owen Jones knows the kind of world he is pushing for, and that's why he's pushing for it. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, just a sort of gripe I have with people who say I didn't want to talk about this. If you didn't want to talk about this, you wouldn't make the video. You wanted to talk about it. Like, come on, can we like stop hiding that this is like an altruistic thing we're doing? Like, oh, I really didn't want to talk about this, but
To
I
be fair,
have
I
to.
said when we wrapped up the Daily
Yeah,
Objective, I
and I
said the
have a
exact
problem
same
with
thing
that.
about Owen Jones.
And I have a problem with that because I do want to talk about this. So he starts talking about how this specific attack, like the pro-Israelis or what cheerleaders, is that the word he used, are using this to talk about Israel. But the thing is, those two things are connected. Like you cannot talk about this. That's what he wants to do, right? He wants to talk about like every single, the murder of the couple in Washington D.C., the synagogue attack in the UK, the Colorado anti-Semitic attack in America, all the pogroms, the synagogue attack in Australia. All of those are isolated incidents. They don't have anything to do with each other. They don't have anything to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That's what he wants to do. But Netanyahu, for all his faults, recognizes that no, those two things are connected. Especially like, why is it happening specifically in Australia? Why does Australia have a larger amount of these anti-Semitic attacks? It is because of both the Australian stance when it comes to Israeli-Palestinian conflict and generally the culture that is being put forward. So absolutely, those two things are connected. And if we want to solve it, we need to look at them as a connected thing. People always want to deal with issues isolated from everything else. Let's ignore everything else and just look into this one thing. But no, it doesn't work like that. You cannot solve the anti-Semitic incidents without talking about Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You cannot talk about solving the Gaza war, solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict without talking about what the general Palestinians want. The fact that the general culture is enemy of civilization, the fact that general culture doesn't want any kind of, if they get self-determination, doesn't want any kind of civil society. They want a society geared towards war, specifically towards war against Israelis. And this is the problem, again, on the Netanyahu side, right? The fact that he doesn't recognize that general Palestinians are also the enemies of Israel, not just Hamas. So this idea of dropping context and just wanting to talk about this one specific issue, and if we just talk about this, then we can solve it. No. So Owen Jones calling out Netanyahu or calling out pro-Israelis for trying to connect these things, it's not good. It's not right.
Yeah, I should probably mention this at the beginning of every Owen Jones episode, but sometimes I, push things out of memory. But yeah, Owen Jones's first video after October 7th, after the massacre on October 7th, 2023, was on October 9th, and it was titled Palestinian Lives Matter. So his immediate response to the massacre of Jews for being Jews is to say, we need to care about the danger of the people, that the people who committed the massacre are in right now. And of course, he always does the lip service to, oh, this is terrible and so on. But yeah, it's what was the character's name in Game of Thrones who said anything that somebody says before the word but doesn't count? Somebody in the chat can remind me. Ian in the chat says, why do anti-Semites show up in every chat? I mean, this is their anti-genocide activism. It's coming to us and trolling us. Salome says in the chat, my first encounter with Owen Hamas Jones was after the Orlando Pulse nightclub massacre when he stormed out of a broadcasting studio unable to reconcile gay slaughter with Islamic culprit. Yes, that is an Owen Jones classic. He wouldn't call a terrorist attack when it was at a gay nightclub. He won't call it, well, I don't know what he calls what Hamas did, but it doesn't matter either way. Yeah, he could definitely be the speechwriter for Anthony Albanese, the Australian Prime Minister. More Owen Jones.
Those who oppose that genocide, and in fact to demonize anyone who in the mildest possible way supports national self-determination for the Palestinian people. Here's what I wanted to talk about. What I want to talk about is the very real evil of anti-Semitism, which is a hatred which within living memory culminated in the Shoah, the Holocaust, the industrialized extermination of the Jewish people in Europe, killing 6 million, 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population in a very short period of time, as well as obviously the anti-Semitism which has existed long before that, and then long after that, predating Israel and its foundation, and the way it's rising now. I'd want to talk about the responsibility that we all have, not least, when I say not least, I say not least on the left because we have a consistent view about justice and equality, but a responsibility to ensure that those in the Jewish diaspora feel safe and secure, that they feel that they don't have to, flee for their lives as their ancestors did when things suddenly turn against them in the country which is their home. And what I want to talk about is unity against hatred. How all of us, whatever communities, need to come together and stand against anti-Semitism and those who wish to hurt and murder Jewish people. I want to talk about the horror on that iconic beach as Jewish Australians gathered for the start of Hanukkah, eating donuts, celebrating, listening to music. That one of the victims was a little 10-year-old girl, another a survivor of the Holocaust. The horror of watching a day of joy end with people running for their lives as 2 gunmen indiscriminately fired into a crowd of Jewish Australians. I want to talk about how no cause on earth ever justifies murdering unarmed civilians. Now, whatever is going through the minds of these terrorists, the only cause underpinning what they did is hatred. And the only cause that they advance is hatred.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
and nobody or very few people fuel that hatred more than Owen Jones, who, you can find some videos on his YouTube channel from the past 2 years that are not on Israel, but very few and a very small percentage of them. Okay, all of that really disgusts me. It reminds me of Marine Faruqi was the Australian pro-Hamas politician, right, that came into Bondi Beach, couldn't open her eyes when she was being interviewed, being called out on actually calling or being part of protests that called for globalizing the Intifada, and then going there to see with her own eyes her own success. That is what Owen Jones looks like to me. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Razi, he is so fake there. Yes, absolutely, and it's disgusting. It's despicable. His audience knows that he's full of shit. But also, anti-Semitism existed before Israel. That is true. That is why Israel is necessary, because Jews get attacked by people with views like Owen Jones wherever they go, and that has been, if the world that this channel is trying to promote actually happens in our lifetime or not in our lifetime, there would be no need for a state of Israel. The need for a state of Israel is because there are people like Owen Jones and people who hear Owen Jones's words and are inspired to act. Stuart.
I'm not nearly as familiar with his past work. In fact, I've only had the vaguest notion of who he was, so I don't have all that. If you watch that clip in isolation, not knowing anything about him, you'd be like, well, that's a perfectly reasonable person. That's not an anti-Semite at all. I believe you, of course, that is not genuine, but I think it does. I think a lot of what we're seeing is people not owning their own anti-Semitism. Now, I don't know in his case, but I see this a lot, that people I think they convince themselves that they're not anti-Semitic because, they just, they don't like Israel. They don't like Netanyahu. The thing is, I don't like Netanyahu either, but the fundamental issue is, does Israel have a right to exist? And it absolutely does. And if you don't think that it does, you either are just vastly ignorant of history, as you said. The only reason Israel exists is because the world tried to wipe Jews off the planet. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that like him. Well, like, he's probably not this. He probably is more sinister. But I know I have friends who, I really think are not anti-Semitic, but they have this mistaken idea that that Israel's existence is colonialism, or that that they don't understand why Israel needs to exist. And I don't know how much of that is innocent and how much of that is I think they've just gotten a lot of bad propaganda and don't have the wherewithal, the knowledge to question it. I think it's a problem more generally that people absorb propaganda without realizing that that's what it is. And I think even smart people do that, and you don't realize that you're being propagandized. But I think that that's absolutely happening. I think Hamas has been a master of propagandizing during this last few years.
And people in the West, I said this on the Daily Objective, but people in the West who don't understand what they're doing but are in any way sympathetic to the Palestinian cause are still a part of the problem. Like if you know,
Oh, yeah.
were a Wehrmacht soldier who didn't read Mein Kampf, didn't think that the Jews were a problem, thought, okay, you know, we're fighting back for, you know, the bad deal we got after World War One. That doesn't matter. Like you are a part of making of the efforts to make the world a worse place, and you have a mind and you can question, you know, what views you're expressing and what action you're taking, and you should do that. And yeah, you know, it's when the world goes in the direction or finally reaches the destination in the direction that it's currently going, if you were a part of that, you can't say, "Oh, sorry, it's you know, I didn't mean it. Can I just live like a normal person?" No, any more than again those who, well, were fighting for communism, so also fighting for evil, but fighting against the Shah in Iran and ended up with an Islamic theocracy. You know, they were part of the problem and they got what basically they created.
Yeah. No, I wasn't trying to excuse those people, but I do think that it is a distinct category from the people, probably like Owen Jones, that are cynically, you know, spouting things that they don't really believe in an effort to change the course of this whole conflict. I think there's a lot of really just ignorant, unthoughtful people. I'm sure you've seen some of these interviews that people do with like the Queers for Palestine group, and you know, you start talking to these people, and they don't know a thing about the conflict. All they've heard is, "Oh, Palestinians are oppressed. Oh, I'm a queer person. I've been oppressed. I have sympathy." It's that deep. It goes no deeper. And yeah, you can't excuse those people, but you also can't categorize them in the same as someone cynical like Owen Jones. I'm not sure how you deal with them, but I think it's a different way of dealing with them.
Well, the thing is, it's on them. If they are protesting for, you know, I've seen in protests in London, I've seen videos. I wouldn't go anywhere near those protests, but you know, queers for Palestine being beaten up by Muslims, and I'm sure in their own mind they still have some sort of excuse. You know, even like I've seen people being asked questions about, you know, gay rights in Gaza and so on. And they're like, well, they're oppressed, so they can't, you know, you can't really expect them to advance yet to that point. Like they, you know, so ultimately they will blame the Jews for the fact that, you know, people are being killed for being gay in Gaza, or that women are oppressed. It doesn't matter what the Palestinians do. It will be excused, and Israel will be blamed.
I mean, yeah, that's what Anna Kasparian has said. So yeah, it's absolutely understandable. The
How long
idea
have you been
that
sitting on that?
I just thought of it. But yeah, sort of. Now that you come, I don't remember. Oh, uh, something specifically that Owen Jones has said in this. You know, the mildest support for Palestine will result in this action, and it's like, yeah, of course. What are you talking about? But the mildest support of Nazis will result in, you know, people like being scared. Of course it will. Like when there is an evil side, any compromise with it, even a little bit of compromise, should properly be judged as a bad thing. Any apologia for Soviet Union, even just a little bit, is bad. Any apologia for the Nazis or neo-Nazis, even just a little bit, is bad. Any support for Palestinians, whose only goal has ever been, as long as the idea of Palestinianism has existed, has been to wipe out the Israeli state or to establish its own state in order to work better and wipe out the Israeli state. So yeah, any a little support for Palestinians should be scrutinized and should be judged. Any, you know, a little bit of poison in water is poison. That's what it is. And oh yeah, I now remember because Stuart mentioned propaganda a bit earlier. And again, the proper way to think about propaganda is almost how we think about art, or specifically the Ayn Rand's definition, art being the selective recreation of reality based on artist's metaphysical value judgment. Specifically, you look at reality, you look at that Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and you pick one thing that you want everybody to focus on. That is what propaganda is. Look at the number of people who have died. Look at the number of children that have died. That's propaganda. Like, ignore everything else. Ignore all context. Ignore everything that happened. Ignore October 7th. Ignore history. Ignore who is the right one here, and simply look at what is the number? 15,000 children had died. That's what propaganda is. Focusing on one often irrelevant thing and putting it as that's the whole issue. Similar, people who are into, or look into Ukrainian-Russian conflict, the Ukraine are Nazis. That's the same thing, because one part of one military organization of the whole army is supposedly neo-Nazi. That means that the whole state is. That's the same kind of propaganda.
And is a reason to support a country that actually,
that
with a leader that wants to be Hitler, basically. All right, guys, people didn't tune in to listen to us. They were promised Owen Jones, so let's hear a bit more of him.
Ahmed al-Ahmed, the Syrian-born Muslim bystander who risked his life and was seriously injured as he wrestled one of the attackers and saved the lives of several others who could have been murdered with the gun that he wrested from his grip. I want to talk about what his cousin said when he said when he saw people dying and their families being shot, he couldn't bear to see people dying. It was a humanitarian act more than anything else. It's a matter of conscience. He's very proud that he saved even one life. When he saw this scene, people dying of gunfire, he told me, I couldn't bear this. God gave me strength. I believe I'm going to stop this person killing people. As I say, he's seriously injured. He's in hospital. He's a courageous hero and an example of unity against hatred. But immediately in the aftermath of this heinous atrocity, there has been an attempt by the state of Israel and its cheerleaders to weaponize the horror inflicted on those Jewish Australians, to try and silence those who speak against the genocide committed against the Palestinian people, in order to justify what Israel has done against the Palestinian people. Now, before I respond,
let's quickly pause here. I have no issue with him, after mentioning Ahmed al-Ahmed saying the Muslim hero. I have no issue with that. But if you want to mention that he's a Muslim, why don't you mention that the murderers were also Muslim? Why don't you mention that the murderer in Manchester was a Muslim? Why don't you mention that the terrorists in Orlando were Muslim? Why are you not mentioning that almost everywhere where there's terrorism, it is done in the name of Islam? It is done, in following the religion's prophet, who did this, his entire life, and is the reason why he's so celebrated. This is, again, Owen Jones doing what he accuses others and weaponizing this as a defense of people who, again, will throw Owen Jones off of a building if they have a chance. It doesn't matter how much he defends them up until that point. Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, him and many people on the left just don't want to face the fact that there is a huge problem with Islamic terrorism and with Islamism per se. They rightly point out that the vast majority of Muslims are peaceful. That's true, and there's no excuse for collectivism and for bigotry against some random Muslim, but you also can't evade the fact that this is a huge political movement within Islam, and that it is behind virtually all of the terrorism in the world at this point. I shouldn't say all, but a vast majority of the terrorism. I don't have the stats in front of me, but if you look at the worldwide stats on terrorism, the vast majority of it is coming from this Islamist political movement. And to evade that and to focus on Israel or focus on anything else in these kinds of attacks is ridiculous.
I don't want to. Fine, I'll read this comment from the probably worst of the trolls that we have. Interesting because we get shootings like this all the time in America, and it's basically never Muslims and always some deranged white guy who is radicalized by a YouTube video. Well, there are mass shootings in America, and they're usually not Muslim. Are they a part of some ideology, or is it just that you count their skin color as one ideology, and therefore, we can run the numbers against Islam and see who wins that? No, it's usually somebody who is yeah, completely deranged and doing this for some often, by the way, the thing with terrorism is it is politically motivated. Like there's a goal of these terrorist attacks. In the case of the attacks on Jews, the goal is exterminating the Jews, and it is also inspiring more such attacks to eliminate the Jews that these people most want to eliminate, which is the Jews in the Jewish state. So yeah, bad comparison, but this troll actually wrote a whole paragraph without using the word Jew, so I figured I would read their comment. Daniel.
So what he said after, so he talked about Ahmed al-Ahmed, he talked about, unity. Well, there isn't much unity coming from the Muslim community because they actually hate Ahmed al-Ahmed for preventing this. So, of course, let's not mention that. And sort of, he used it as a sign of unity, which I think in certain circumstance this could be it. Although I think importantly, I don't think Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a purely religious conflict. I think it's a civilizational conflict. But I could given that. But then the question would be, which Palestinians try to prevent October 7th? Where is the sign of unity there? And the fact is, there were none, because Palestinian society stands behind what has happened on October 7th. So the only thing you're saying is that Muslims that have living in Western states might actually prefer sort of the civilizational aspects, the non-violent aspects of those states, rather than constant war against the West, which is great to see. But again, it's not really the issue here. He also brought up the did he bring? Yeah, he brought up the weaponizing of the attack. That this is used as a justification for violence against Palestinians, which now I'm really feeling that he might just be reading from what was it? It was the police chief in Australia, right? Who was like, "Oh, now we are scared about the blowback against peaceful Muslims. That's what we are worried about." But the fact is, no, this has never been about violence against Palestinians. This has, from the start, been war against the, unfortunately, not a war against the whole idea of Palestinianism. Just some weird misunderstanding of this is just war on Hamas or this is just war in Gaza, instead of properly understanding what this is about. But this has never been just some kind of let's just beat up some Palestinians for some reason. I mean, it shows I want to say it shows ignorance, but unfortunately with Owen Jones, it shows, again, the propaganda aspects of it, right? Where are the, like, I'm not even sure, have we seen any like anti-Muslim attacks connected to Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or Palestinians abroad being targeted because of this conflict? I might be misremembering, but I don't remember anything like that.
Not that I remember.
Well, we showed some videos from Italy, was it last week, where that started mid-incident, that apparently an Israeli started saying not nice things to a bunch of pro-Palestinian people who were around him, and somehow the video started midway. But no, it's Israelis and Jews who are targeted everywhere by people who are globalizing the Intifada. Yeah, and on the issue of blowback against Muslims, the most likely case of blowback against Muslims is, Daniel, as you mentioned, blowback against Ahmed al-Ahmed being targeted by Muslims who don't like, that he betrayed the Ummah. Thank you, Equal to Reality, for being a member of the YouTube channel for 43 months. Equal to Reality says, I don't know, I prefer listening to you guys instead of Owen Jones. Thank you for the compliment. I hate to say now let's go back to Owen Jones, but that is what we promised. So, Daniel.
Raw position. Opposing violence against Palestinians is not incitement of violence. Believing Palestinians are humans of equal worth is not hatred. And if you use the Bondi Beach atrocity to justify violence against Palestinians, then it is not violence that you object to. Now, I'm going to start with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister who is wanted by the International Criminal Court, who issued an arrest warrant against him for war crimes and crimes against humanity, who has, as per the consensus of genocide scholars, committed genocide against the Palestinians.
Good place to pause and remind people that yes, the Lebanese Muslim prosecutor in the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant. This is we talked about this on the previous show. This is the kind of formal globalizing of the Intifada. Then it trickles down to the likes of the terrorists who did what they did in Bondi Beach, and the global scholars, who genocide scholars. We did a show about that as well. One of them was Adolf Hitler, presumably not the original, unless he somehow is living among us and we just don't know. Presumably not a person with the actual name Adolf Hitler, but somebody who wanted to prove that to become a genocide scholar in whatever that institution's name was, you need to pay the $30 fee, sign up with whatever name you want, and then you become a genocide scholar. So yeah, a bunch of people are full of shit and have some name to an organization that does full of shit stuff, and Owen Jones then repeats it. But yeah, that's just the context there. Stuart, anything on that?
Well, I'm just always amazed that people are still saying this, genocide thing with a straight face. I mean, if as efficient as Israelis have been, with their attacks on Iran, their Iron Dome, blowing up the pagers, if they wanted to wipe the Palestinians out, I think it would be long done by now. If this is genocide, it's the worst job of doing it, and Israelis are not bad at doing what they set out to do. So I don't understand how people can say with a straight face. I mean, if you want to say there have been abuses, these IDF soldiers committed a war crime, okay, let's look at the evidence. That's okay. I'm not going to claim that there are no abuses happening. I think they happen in any war, and those people should be held accountable. But to claim that there's genocide, it's so absurd, and yet people throw it around as though it's a real thing. I don't get it.
Well, they don't throw it around because they think there's a genocide. And as I've said on shows, not a single human being on the planet thinks that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, because words have meaning, and the word genocide has a meaning, the word think has a meaning. And so, yeah, not a single human being actually thinks but that's not the point of saying it. The point of saying it is having that be the conversation. And not the actual villains in this war, which are the Palestinians. So once they put it out there and keep repeating it and repeat it and have organizations that are supposed authorities that we can't question say that it's a genocide, then the conversation is it a genocide? And then one side says yes it is, and then the other side, no, it really isn't. Look, we sent soldiers to die to protect Palestinians, we give them food, and that becomes the conversation. Whereas the whole conversation should be Palestinian savages want to kill Jews more than they want to live. They slaughtered Israelis to start this war. They kept this war going every single day that it was going. That's the only conversation that should be had here. And but it's not because people said genocide.
Yeah, good point.
Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, again, he like brings up this organization, and it's like, who cares? Like, is it just the name? Is it just the name that like you? Oh, this is a human rights organization. Is it just the name that like you say that, and somehow that should automatically be accepted? You know, these genocide scholars. Nobody know like. And this is the thing, right? What was the International Association of Genocide Scholar or whatever it was? Like nobody heard about them before they said that Israel is committing a genocide, but suddenly, oh, oh shit! The International Association of
Right.
Genocide Scholars have dropped it. Now it's the real thing. It's like nobody cares. Like or nobody should care.
Should care.
People care. Unfortunately. But yeah, like who actually like I've tried to look up like did anybody ever do something because the UN Human Rights Council said something and I couldn't really find it. Like nobody really listens to. Again, my favorite statistic from the UN is a UN report came out that said that nobody reads UN reports. Like most of them get like under like absolute majority of them get under 1,000 downloads. And we are talking about the UN. So at that point, it's what are we really doing here? And of course, nobody really cares because it cannot really do anything. It's just a we just go there once a year to shit on other guys, or specifically to, talk bad about Israel, since, especially with the Human Rights Council, Israel is on permanent agenda 7, with me, which means anytime there is a session of Human Rights Council, we have to talk about Israel. So, like, don't give me this. If you want to talk about anything properly, let's set up some institutions that, for one, don't involve actual dictatorships, and for two, actually are able to do something. Oh, and actually, in that, I want to add one more thing. I don't know if Owen Jones already said it or he will say it. I think he will say it in a bit, so I'll comment on it later. But what I want is, I want these people to give me like what they agree with. Like, oh, World War II was fought properly. I stand behind this. If every war was fought like this, I would be okay with this. I won't want. I won't want. So I know what the standard is. Because if the standard is like you can never fight a war properly, then these people should be ignored. Because the fact is, there are times, even if you like believe in diplomacy, there are times when the other guy doesn't believe in diplomacy, and where what they want is war, like World War II. No matter how much you would appease Hitler, no matter how much you would give to him, he would invade you eventually. That was the one time, or at least one time, where the only way to actually stop that is war. And then give me your idea on how war should be fought. And after that, we can talk about Gaza and if Israel is doing or not doing that.
Daniel, I know you don't spend much time on X because you want to maintain your mental well-being, but yeah, Piers Morgan today was saying how horrible Dresden is and how Gaza is the same. Of course, Gaza is not the same because the RAF didn't call people up in Dresden and say, "Hey, we're about to bomb your building. Can you please leave? Otherwise, we won't bomb it." Whereas that's what the IDF has been doing. But yeah,
By the way,
it's
I specifically with Dresden, I've actually seen one documentary about the way it's been done, and let me tell you, if this happened today, people would be saying that the UK is committing a genocide. Like that was like even I would say that guys, kind of chill. But I understand that is war. That's what you have to do.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think part of the problem is that people don't understand the nature of war and the nature of dictatorships. Ayn Rand identified that a dictatorship needs an enemy to stay in because it's inherently unstable. So you have to focus the attention of the populace on an outward enemy. So that's why there was no negotiating with Hitler, because he needed to keep going, to keep creating enemies. And that's the same with the Soviet Union. I think that's the same with current day Russia. So you can't just negotiate with a dictatorship because their very existence depends on their aggression. So, they're facing essentially an existential crisis. And if you want to not face an existential crisis, you need to step up and fight the war, and you need to execute the war in a way that lets you wipe out the enemy. It's not that, oh, you and the enemy have a little bit of a difference of opinion, and as soon as you kind of iron that out, then you stop the fighting. It's like, no. I mean, maybe some wars are fought that way, but those wars maybe could have been avoided. But when you're dealing with the dictatorship, when you're dealing with the Nazis or Russia, no, you can't avoid it. They are fighting because that's the nature of their system, and you need to fight back with everything you have, or you will be crushed.
Thank you. Use Your Delusion for gifting an Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube membership, and congratulations, Govan, for receiving that membership. Bonnie says, what? Pierce is apologizing for Dresden. He's condemning it. He's calling it a horrible crime. I don't remember the exact wording, but it's on X. It's on my X because I quote tweeted it and responded. Deborah says, all of ARCUK should have become one of those scholars. What did it cost? $30? I love that you think we have that kind of money. But here at the International Association of Owen Jones Scholars, we all we've conducted a study, and we have concluded that Owen Jones is officially a piece of shit. Let's hear some more confirmation from him that that is indeed the case.
Just listen to what he said.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of Australia a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism in Australia. I wrote, your call for a Palestinian state pours full fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent. It retreats when leaders act. I call upon you to replace weakness with action, appeasement with resolve. Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
Well, what a criminal disgrace that man is. As it happens, the Australian government has repeatedly justified Israel's genocidal onslaught, and they continue to offer crucial components, like Britain, for F-35 jets, which are raining death and destruction on the people of Gaza. Let me read this from Amnesty International Australia. Amnesty International Australia is gravely concerned by new reports confirming that Australia has directly supplied parts for F-35 fighter jets to Israel, which have been used in its genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Despite repeated claims by the Australian government that it is not supplying arms or arms parts to Israel, shipping records now reveal goods labelled aircraft parts were recently sent on 2 flights from Sydney to Tel Aviv. The parts are registered to Lockheed Martin, the manufacturer and global supply chain manager of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. Now, the support for Palestinian national self-determination, for the Palestinian people to have a state, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, that is anti-Semitism.
Yes, it is. Okay, let's pause here. Yeah, okay. I think the Association of International Owen Jones Scholars has been completely, our study has been verified as true just now by Owen Jones. He is indeed a piece of shit. Yeah, he is actually pushing a line, claiming that Australia has been pro-Israel since October 7th. Remember, Australia recognized the Palestinian state as a reward for October 7th. Australia has, other than the massacre a few days ago, has thousands of anti-Semitic incidents a year in the past 2 years. Every day, Jews are being attacked. The armed police who were there and did nothing for the first 10 minutes or so in Bondi Beach. There are armed police. There are police wherever Jews are because Australia doesn't wants to pretend on the one hand to protect its citizens, on the other hand doesn't want to identify what the threat to those citizens are, so it's not going to go after the communities that push this. It was in Australia where 2 days after October 7th, masses of people chanted gas the Jews. Australia's policy has been pro-Palestinian from day one. Pro-Palestinian means pro the people who massacred Jews for being Jews and who said we will repeat this again and again until there are no more Jews left to kill. Just another point on this. This is not. This is very much a part of Owen Jones's MO. Remember, he did a whole study explaining why the BBC is pro-Israel. And part of that study was when they the one thing I remember because it was so amazing that he thought he could get away with this and probably can with his own audience. He said some of the effect of, look, the BBC, when it reports on something, for example, Israel killing terrorists, it says Israel says when it gives Israel's point of view. Of course, that is a way of claiming that Israel is maybe saying that which isn't true. When it said we killed terrorists or we targeted terrorists, it gives the story as the Palestinians, as Hamas presents it. Then it gives Israel's part, and Owen Jones used that as part of why the BBC is supposedly pro-Israel. Remember, this is the news organization that had a documentary that was produced by Hamas, aired on their channel, and had to be pulled at some point because what the fuck. Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, I do not know the details of Australian politics, but I do know that that what you said, that they've they recognize Palestine, and if you didn't know any of the history or what Palestinianism was, it's like, oh well, sure, people deserve self-determination, just as an isolated, out of context thing. But when that self-determination involves the slaughter of the Jews, no, they don't deserve self-determination. That is not a legitimate. That does not give a state any legitimacy. And even if you take out the Jews, which you can't because their whole identity is based on hatred of the Jews and killing the Jews. But aside from that, as Ayn Rand pointed out, people don't have a right to self-determination if that means oppressing their own citizens. That's not a right that people have. And yet that's what Hamas, that's what virtually every Muslim government does. They oppress their own citizens. So in that sense, none of the Muslim states are legitimate, in my view. You don't have a right to oppress people, period. So yeah, Palestinians certainly don't have a right to a state.
Davey Boy in the chat says, some say Ilhan Omar isn't sufficiently anti-Israel, and then somebody also, I think, mentioned AOC. Yeah, I've seen anti-Israel people go after AOC for being a Zionist shill. I love it when these people go after each other because the more energy they spend. This is like Hamas and the PLO fighting each other. It's when they're not killing each other, they're killing us. So yeah, Daniel.
Well, first of all, I'd like to disclose, as a partial owner of Lockheed Martin, I would like to thank the Australian government for supporting the company and sending the parts to Israel, which again, if true, I mean,
Can I just say, when Daniel reveals what his portfolio is, that is not official investing advice or whatever. Jonathan, you can send me the actual thing that we need to read. Daniel, continue.
I don't think I have to disclose that. But because I am not licensed in anything. Yeah, I mean, going again into this, he kind of uses the same standard I am, just in the other way, because I'm saying any appeasement of Palestinians is a support for Palestine, and he's doing the same thing, right? Australia is not anti-Semitic or is not, supporting of Palestinian terrorism because it does this one thing with helping Israel. And again, that's not the standard. I hate when people say, sort of being proper is like being neutral on both sides or being sort of like equivalent to both sides. Or even when people say about politics, especially in America, like being objective means criticizing both sides the same or something like that. No, it's criticizing people and what they are doing to that extent, right? If somebody is your friend and half the time he is nice to you and half the time he kills your wife, that's not like, he's not being like an equal friend and enemy to you. He's not really your friend. And in the same way, if we have Australia, okay, and many Western countries do it, I could like name it. United Kingdom is helping with intel and sort of watching the skies for Israel in Gaza. America, of course, is helping both on the international stage and locally with Israel on many ways with agreement and hurting some of it. Australia, if it is supplying, it is helping Israel. But the fact is, all of that is moot with, even a single instance, because that is what being a proper, like, if America during World War II, sent some lend-lease to UK and then sent some lend-lease to Nazi Germany, that wouldn't be like, even if it was 1% of what it was sending to Britain, that wouldn't really be like, okay, kind of compromise. It's like, no, what are you doing? Why are you supporting both sides? Why do you think this, like, we kind of support this and kind of support this is like an okay thing to do or moral in any way, shape, or form?
I see people are enjoying the neutral in the chat who says, shut your bitch ass up before all the gang comes, LOL. Yes, that is frightening. We will consider shutting down the channel, and I will certainly avoid walking in the dark through your mom's basement. Let's hear some more from Owen Jones.
Did the bare minimum, which is join the majority, the large majority of countries on earth in accepting a Palestinian state. That, in his view, or according to his position, is anti-Semitism. That is hatred of Jewish people. That's what he's conflating. That's what he's using anti-Semitism as to describe. I mean, this is just so grossly irresponsible because misusing the term anti-Semitism in order to justify the oppression of the Palestinian people robs anti-Semitism of meaning and leads people to stop believing in it when it's real. And it endangers Jewish people. And his position is backed by a vast majority of Israeli politicians, both in government and opposition, which is there will never be a Palestinian state of any description. But the only state that will ever exist between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea is Israel.
Okay, let's stop. When Owen Jones says something good, I kind of, zoned out for some of it, but I heard the end. I like it. I think that is a good place to pause. Stuart, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
I mean, these people who are obsessed with the Palestinian state. First of all, it is given that the stated goal of any current formulation of a Palestinian state would be the destruction of Israel. I mean, they're very clear that they don't want a two-state solution. They want to be the one state. So yes, it is anti-Semitism if you support that. But the other part of it is that there is already a Palestinian state. That Jordan, I mean, Jordan was, or at least the western part of Jordan, that was part of Palestine. That was supposed to, in the whole 1947 Jewish Arab partition. There is a Palestinian state. It's called Jordan. So, congratulations. It's already been achieved. Now leave Israel alone.
Yep. The East Bank. Continue.
So I do have a Substack. In fact, I recently wrote about the Israel versus Palestine issue. It's stuartmargolis.substack.com, and I am also on Facebook.
Daniel, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
I guess a different way to refer to Judea and Samaria could be Cisbank, because Cisjordan, because it's Transjordan and Cisjordan. when it comes to, I mean, something I'm really wondering about is, and I know the answer, but like, do these socialists like even like living in Western countries? I don't know if, because I know at least like, wasn't Marx like kind of supportive of the United States? Kind of support, like generally he believed that socialism would happen in Western industrialist countries. Like in some way, he even believed that capitalism is a good thing in terms of like it will eventually fall apart and turn into a socialist society. But maybe Soviet Union sort of like turned it on its head because Soviet Union became this enemy of West. So it kind of, you had to abandon Western civilization to become a socialist. But yeah, I'm just really wondering because he goes, every single nation supports, or like majority of nations support like the independence of Palestine or the Palestinian state. And it's like, yeah, the kind of nations you don't want to live in. I don't want to use the gay card, but Owen Jones, he is gay, right? I'm not like making that up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I don't
okay.
know in which context you're using the card though, but go ahead.
I mean like especially as like a gay individual, right? It's probably majority of those countries that recognize the Palestinian state are not really fit for flourishing life. Well, being gay or not, are not really fit for flourishing life anyway. So yeah, again, like that is my like biggest problem with I mean anybody who criticizes Western nations. It's done to such an extent that I'm like wondering, like, why do you even live here? And this is not like, if you don't like it, get out of my country. But it's like actually like, as somebody who I think consider values very important, like if you hate the Western country so much, why would you want to live there like for your own sake? Like if I hated my country, I would move out. I wouldn't want to, maybe it's like altruistic. He needs to sacrifice himself for the benefit of future generations to change Britain. Somebody's asking, and they did also on the earlier show, if I've ever been to Israel, and yes, I have.
Yeah, we took a picture in the hill right above
Yes.
Gaza. I think it's the only time, at least in my adult life, that I took a picture with me showing the middle finger, because I think that's kind of juvenile generally, but I think the people of Gaza have earned it. Yeah, jokes aside, I think the work we do here at the International Association of Owen Jones Scholars is super important, and we will continue to do that work. And you can help support that work by becoming a member. I know Owen Jones, at least in the past, before October 7th, when he talked occasionally about things that don't have to do with killing Jews, uh, he would talk about the problem of income inequality. Well, he makes a lot more money than us. He also has more viewers than us. I don't know if he's ever spoken about viewership inequality, but yeah, Owen, send some of those viewers here. The trolls in the chat need help. Like, I don't mean just, because they're out of their mind, but they need help as in, they can't win this without more of your people. So yeah, let's have viewership. Let's close the gap on viewership inequality, and your support will help us do that. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow with the Daily Objective, where we're discussing how Australia's politicians are doubling down on the policies that allowed what happened in Bondi Beach to happen, and how they are basically guaranteeing more of it. On the reality show, we are talking about something, but I forgot what it was. Daniel, do you remember?
Aren't we talking about the Palestine Action hunger strike?
No, I don't think so. Is that what we're talking about?
Wait.
I thought we were
No,
waiting for one of them
no,
to
no, no,
die, but they're
occupation.
not actually doing a hunger strike. It's a rolling hunger strike, so nobody's gonna die. So,
The rebuilding. We are talking about the
oh
rebuilding.
yeah, rebuilding Gaza. Who should pay for it? Uh, we report, you decide. Don't sue me, Fox. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.
Take care, guys.